You see someone waking up in a dark room. They don't seem to recognize their surroundings and call out into the empty room, but no one answers. You take control and try to map out the area around you, and after stumbling about for some time, you gather that there are 2 dark rooms with a locked door. In addition to that, there is a computer in which you can insert a code. The gamer number, sadly, doesn't work. From interacting with the bed and receiving this message and the mirror, we learn of our character's name, Niko. After some time, you might find out that you're supposed to pick up this controller and interact with this window in order to see what's on it. Here, you get the code. Thereafter, Niko boots up the computer and this happens. A notification pops up. It says, "You found me. Why? You're already too late. Not much of the world remains. This will be apparent once you go outside. This place was never worth saving. Do you still want to try? Then remember this. Your actions here will affect Niko. Your mission is to help Niko leave. And most importantly, you only have one shot." Hello, my name is Generic YouTuber 69 and I want you to subscribe to my channel before showing you any content remotely close to resembling value. Additionally, I want to tell you that this intro is relatively well made. It even goes through the effort to fetch your username in your actual PC in order to address the player. It is very mysterious and it makes you want to see what is going to happen next. Okay, so let's settle an obvious question right now. Why am I talking about a moderately popular indie game made several years ago? Well, it's simple. I played it now. In fact, I just randomly found it while browsing Steam and thinking it looked like some random Undertale clone, but I was wrong, and I can't time travel in order to release the video at a more fitting point. And I realized that there haven't been too many videos about OneShot. The game is severely underrated on YouTube. In recent memory, the game has gotten some more popularity after its high back when it was released to Steam, and I want to keep that momentum going. This video will try to cover the most important parts of OneShot's story and try to focus on how that story is told and why it works as well as it does. More specifically, I'm going to talk about the storytelling, which is the most integral part of OneShot. How does the game tell its story? What kind of atmosphere, themes, and world building does it rely on? How does the player actually experience the story in a meaningful way? What do you find when you delve into the depths of its world? Well, that is the main topic of this video. And also to point out some more specific parts to show in a more detailed fashion why I like the game. Totally without any spoilers. Okay, that's a lie. I'm going to be spoiling throughout the entire video, so for now I'll just tell you that OneShot is a cheap and a great game available on Steam and it has my recommendation. And of course, if you want to play totally blind, you should have never clicked on this video in the first place. So, where shall we begin? Well, back to the dark house at the start. After some big brain action in the second area, you'll find your way to the basement. And it is here we find a light bulb. A warm light bulb that shines without any electricity. When selected in the inventory, the description reads, "It's the sun." that no one shall know. Upon finding your way out of the dark building, you see a great tower in the distance in beautiful pixel art before the game throws you into an open world. The Barrens, it is called. The music played in this area is much more engaging and nicer to listen to than that of the initial house, though it isn't upbeat or anything. It conveys some of the mystery and lack of purpose. You still don't know what you're doing or where you are. After walking around like an idiot for a while and starting to think that there really isn't a lot to this game and that you should try to refund it before you hit the 1 hour mark on Steam, you finally get to this building. And at this outpost, you will meet ProfitBot.
Autobots, transform and roll out!
This is the first time we are given proper dialogue from an NPC in this game, and it is used to explain our mission and what is going on in the world. Let me give you a little summary. You see, this world is a dying one. Previously, there was an unfathomably tall tower that held the sun at the top, and this is the tower you see when you first exit the initial building. And in the center of the world, it casts light onto everything. But one day, the sun disappeared. Without the sun to bring new life to vegetation and charge up the phosphor, which is used as their primary energy source, it will make food production impossible in the long run and cut off their source of electricity. Additionally, you will see people having several light sources, whatever they can find to lighten up their homes. And for a world that is running out of energy, it seems wasteful to have so many at once. And if you look closer, you will see that most of the lively characters full of hope are located in areas where the darkness isn't as threatening, while you will find decay and somberness in darker areas. Sometimes, only remnants of those who have already given up. And those who remain, perhaps they're just clinging to what little they have left, without hope of ever restoring the sun. This dependence on illumination that we see in OneShot is integral to the main plot. Niko is a savior from another world who is meant to restore light and with it hope and allow the inhabitants to rebuild this broken world. And the ProfitBot tells us that there is a map within the outpost, which gives us a clear overview of the world we find ourselves in, which doesn't seem to have a name. It's just called the world. And it is divided into 3 sections: the Barrens, the Glen, and the Refuge, with an unrealistically tall and thin tower in the middle. Also, if you take some time to think about the map you are presented, you might start asking some questions. Why is everything so symmetrical? So perfect in the shapes? Mirroring one of the sides gives us almost an exact clone. What lies outside the Barrens? Is this world somehow floating above some dark abyss? What happens if you jump off the edge? And the center of it all seems to be this mysterious tower where Niko is supposed to place the sun at the summit. But how would you even reach the top of such a construction? Already, this game is giving us so much to speculate over. I think it's about time I give you a little more of a detailed introduction to the aforementioned protagonist, Niko. Niko is a Soviet spy from the Cold War on a mission to destroy. Niko is a kid from another world. All that they know is that they woke up in a dark house, not knowing how they got there, and all of a sudden, Niko is told that there's some sort of savior carrying the literal sun around with an unknown entity communicating to them. The fact that this doesn't result in some mental breakdown is already impressive enough, but this shows that Niko is just as clueless as we are.
What the fuck?
they will often ask the player for advice, as you are apparently the god of this world, according to the prophet bot. Perhaps a god that just came here and probably had to Google how to get out of the first room of the game, but a god nonetheless. And Niko finds comfort in knowing that they're not alone on this journey and will often talk to the player for encouragement, advice, conversation, information, or whatever. This dynamic between the player and the protagonist is great for developing a close bond to one another. You feel connected to Niko, and Niko feels connected to you. Let's talk about the main gameplay we find in OneShot and how it ties into the magnificent storytelling. Because there's absolutely no sort of combat in this game, which is usually something I don't personally like, as some of my favorite games are Dark Souls, Hollow Knight, and Cuphead, where dying over and over again and learning attack patterns and such are very important elements to the core gameplay. This game, however, is all about puzzle solving, map maneuvers, picking up and combining different items, and lastly, messing around in the game files. Yeah, that's right. I'll show you how that works right now. After finding out that you have absolutely no way of progressing the game, you're supposed to get to the Glen, you know, closer to the ultimate destination, but there are no ways to go, as the northern half is inaccessible without a gas mask, so you're kinda just stuck until you realize that a computer has been turned on. And to be honest, at this point in the game, I'd kinda just forgotten that it was there. It felt like such a long time since the intro, but here we now again get to meet what I choose to call the entity. The entity will directly notify the player and seems to understand that they are inside some sort of application. Interacting with it may download certain documents or give hints about what you should change or find in the game's files in order to make progress. You see, for reasons we don't know yet, Niko's mission is truly impossible without external interference. That is why the player and Niko make such a great duo. Niko can interact with the in-game characters and environment and is the ultimate savior to restore light to the universe, while the player can communicate with the entity and actually manipulate and extract information from the game itself. This kind of gameplay is a unique and a creative way to establish a connection to the protagonist and the game. OneShot treats itself exactly like what it is, an application on your computer. The final thing for me to talk about in the Barrens is a certain robot. Because every character we have met so far are robots. However, this robot is very different. It looks like a human, and that's what I first thought before I saw the battery. She seems to have a personality, independent thoughts, and ambitions. This robot is the only one to go out of her way in order to light up her home, as other characters you will see later, which shows that she's more human than the other robots. She's also the first character that don't seem too happy about the arrival of the Savior and their mission to restore the sun to the tower. She insinuates that returning the sun might not be enough to save the world, stating that Niko is better off just going home, like the entity does in the very beginning. This is vital, because the Prophet bot is telling us that if we complete this mission, everything will be fixed and we get our happy ending. But now, we see that whether or not this is the case is just a matter of who we choose to trust, and who we choose to avoid. Luckily, all we have to do is get to the tower and everything will be fine. We'll save the world from eternal darkness as the prophecy suggests. And so our journey continues to the boat which will lead us over to the Glen. However, as you are about to finally enter the boat, Niko tells you that they need a nap. So on request, I answer yes, and Niko goes to bed. Then the game crashes, and as you boot it up again, you see pictures of Niko in a field, with bright sunlight dominating the view, a sharp contrast to the dark nature of the world. When Niko wakes up, they start talking to the player about the dream they just had. They don't seem very concerned when they realize that we can literally see their dreams while they're asleep. I mean, okay, Niko doesn't find that creepy, like at all. Regardless, the following dialogue is honestly very endearing and incredibly wholesome, as Niko tells us more about their homeworld and even asks questions about our homeworld. Anyways, it is at this point in the game where you will find out that this is the only time you are actually able to quit the game without forcefully stopping it through Steam, Alt F4 or Task Manager. There is no quit or save option, you're just supposed to play until the game tells you that you're allowed to take a break. However, the game does autosave, and if you leave, you will respawn at the same area without having to do anything over again. Niko will mention that everything went black for a second before returning to normal, which when you think about it makes totally sense. The world in OneShot is an application that runs on your computer. When you switch it off, there is nothing, and therefore Niko can't continue before you come back. One interesting thing to note is that when OneShot was originally released, it was made in such a way that if you quit the game outside of sleeping, this would happen when you booted it up again. There is no way to progress, and that is the ending of the game. It is possible to delete a certain file and then be allowed to start over again, but that is pretty goddamn hardcore. After it was released to Steam though, they decided that this was too harsh on the player and they changed it. I think that was the right decision, even if this is a really unique and cool concept that fits into the world of OneShot. I think it would just be too annoying. So, we move on. The Glen is far more green and lively than anything we've seen so far, as it is covered with moss and phosphor trees. A nice touch is that you can see that there are several tree stumps, as they are frequently harvested for their phosphor in order to obtain energy from them. Moss is also commonly known as a plant that can survive in very dark and wet areas, like the Glen, and grow even on rocks where you'd wonder how that even works. Something else to note about this area is that it is essentially just a bunch of islands connected by bridges, inhabited by these people who for some reason kinda look like birds from that one animation movie released in 2011. They seem to be mainly fishers and smaller scale farmers as they try to grow plants without sunlight. Whether or not this actually works, I really don't know because I'm not some sort of fucking plantologist. My uneducated guess though is that these people are just doing whatever they can in order to sustain themselves, regardless of how stupid or not stupid it is. I think that's right. The soundtrack is less mysterious compared to the one in the Barrens. This one seems to be slower and more mellow. It is a very nice song, yet it's still quite melancholic. The song does fit the area, bringing a very specific kind of atmosphere. The Glen is a peaceful place with nice inhabitants. However, it is still unsure whether or not it will survive and be sustainable in the long term. Walking through the grass and forests of the Glen with this soundtrack makes me feel weirdly sad and reflective. The song in the actual soundtrack is called To Sleep. We can only guess as to why this is. After all, most of the other songs are titled after the areas or moments they are found in the game. Perhaps it is a metaphor for the fate of the Glen. To die here in this peaceful yet decaying forest area along with your friends and family, it can't be that bad. It would be like going to sleep when the darkness finally overtakes it all. It could also be that I'm just reading into it too much. South of the main village, you will find someone called Calamus who is looking for a sister. She's been gone for 3 whole days and he's very worried. He tells us that they live in the ruins, quite a bit away from everybody else in the Glen, without any parents. Anyways, he gives us a description of his sister Alula and goes about searching for her. In the Glen, the story moves a little slower, and it's more about just finding your way through it in order to get to the next area. That means more item gathering and running around aimlessly looking for the next objective. At least until you realize that you are in fact stuck. The only thing that kinda looks like somewhere we can make progress is blocked off by these weird squares and some sort of interactable floor. However, there are no obvious clues or anything about what you're supposed to do. And yet again, a certain computer This leads us to finding Alula, the sister of Calamus, trapped in this mysterious area in the ruins. After rescuing her, we help Alula reunite with her brother. They invite us to their house, if you can call it that, and give us this golden feather as a thanks. Along with the bottle of dye you obtain from trading, you can use it to sign this piece of paper that is required to get into the refuge. Why this robot could make a small exception for somebody who is quite literally trying to save the world, I cannot understand. Especially when the idiot didn't even have a pen ready so we could actually give this precious signature immediately. Nah, it's way better to make you search around in a fucking forest for something to write with, along with absolutely no indication of where something like that could even be. This attitude of, just search around, I'm sure you'll find something eventually. I hate you and everybody you love, which is nobody as you're a robot incapable of emotion. So it's actually just you. Never talk to me again. So we carry on to the last area, the Refuge. Before furthering the story here, I want to point out an interesting detail. Whenever Niko walks to the edge of the screen and the game loads to the next, it often looks nothing like before. Like, what the hell is happening between these two areas? Now, I don't know if the developers put this in here on purpose or if these are just poorly made transitions, but let's assume, just for a moment, that it is supposed to be this way. Why? Is it supposed to mean that this world does not function like what we're used to? Perhaps time and space doesn't work the same, these two screens might actually be separate within the game world as well, indicating that everything is not as it seems. I mean, we already have a world that looks like this, with a light bulb for a sun. Might as well mess up all continuity present in the game with separate and weird transitions in between areas like this. Of course, it is very likely that this wasn't put into the game on purpose, but it is an interesting detail that I haven't seen in other similar games. Somewhat disorienting too. In the Refuge, Niko finds that they are walking on these long bridges far over the actual surface. However, we are told that the entrance into the tower is located at the bottom, which means that we need to get down there. But the elevator is broken and the stairs are apparently blocked off by some of these weird squares again. So what do we do now? We've got to fix the elevator or make progress somehow. Well, let's just break into every apartment in our way to strip random people of their personal belongings. Naturally. Inside one of these random apartments, we find the penguin. When interacting with this penguin, this is what happens.
Hello.
What if I'm the monster?
These biscuits.
Yeah, so after the main villain has been defeated, there really isn't anything more interesting in the Refuge or OneShot in general, really. You find some stuff here and some stuff there, have yet another touching bonding experience with Niko, yada yada yada. Find a really creepy room with a mysterious timer and ominous music, as well as a computer that gives you a cool disc that shows you a bunch of random numbers and minimizes your game every time you look at it. Basic stuff. And that's about it. Yeah, that's actually the end of OneShot. We need a code to get the elevator working, and we simply don't have it, so who cares? Wait, there's a cool disc that gives us a bunch of random numbers. What the f*** is that? The entity tells you to expose the film to the void, which is interesting because how the hell do you expose something to the void? And what even is void in this instance? Whenever you open it, it just fills the screen with these random numbers as we just saw. And after some time walking around and not understanding where to find the void or what to do, I started playing around with this weird film. After several minutes of poking around in files and moving the tab around, something happened. I kind of just spam minimized the application, and then suddenly a specific set of numbers were colored in yellow in similarity to the very first puzzle in the game. And once again, we are unable to proceed without guidance from the entity. What is this unknown helper, and why does it help us? And most importantly, what does it want? Finally, on the surface in the middle of the world, we start looking for the tower. Niko stumbles into the library, which seems to be the place where most people have retreated to, and in general, the Refuge is by far the most populated region, being the area with the most lights and apartments. Is no wonder why people move here from the Glen. It's already in its name. People take refuge here, and especially the library seems to be the most popular area. Because while the world is running out of light, this is where they distract themselves from reality with books. Kind of like what you might be doing right now with this video. One curious thing is that they all seem to be written by the same author. No matter if it's a fantasy book or a factual study on phosphor, everybody in this library is reading a book made by somebody literally called the author. According to somebody in the library, nobody have ever really seen the author, but everybody have heard of him. Another struggling author is frustrated by the author's talents, as he has apparently made a book on almost any subject, which makes all other books kind of unnecessary. He seems to have some sort of monopoly on book writing. His symbol is printed onto all of his work, a plant that kind of looks like a dark clover, a special plant found in the Barrens, which is actually the only plant there. That very same symbol is also on this unreadable strange journal we also picked up way back in the Barrens. Who is the author? Why has nobody seen him? Walking around in the Refuge, we suddenly stumble into what looks like a weird back way, and after a little while we find a building in an interesting area. Also something to note is that there is no music here, which is quite rare in OneShot. When Niko enters the building, the game instantly minimizes for seemingly no reason, because there is nothing inside except for an X on the ground. It's empty, yet it feels important somehow. The window does minimize every time you enter the building, and who would make such a building if it had no purpose to it? Are there any other levels to this building? Like, it's actually so tall that we can't even see the end of it. It almost reminds me of a different building. A certain thin, gray, and seemingly endlessly tall tower. But wait. This can't be the tower, right? The most important building in this world, supposed to hold the sun at the top. It's a boring building in some back alley in the Refuge, with nobody around it, no sign, no video, no instructions, no nothing. Just an empty room with an X mark on the floor. I tried restarting the game, reshuffling the items in my menu, triple check every file in the file explorer, and still nothing. You know what? Fuck this game. I'm done. There it is. We have saved everyone. With sheer determination, we restored light to the universe, got Niko safely back home, and accomplished our mission. Now isn't that amazing? Well, that's about it for this video, so please like and subscribe. I need to buy some more bitcoins for my pet turtle. Wait, who the hell are you? Oh, I just finished the game for you, man. No, there's no way you finished it. Let me see that. No! What are you doing? Let me see the... Ah! Just let it happen. Let me go. Just let me check. I just want to see. No! Take that! Alright, I guess we're done then. Thanks again for watching the video. I'm happy we were able to save the world, and have a good day. Roll the credits.